Hello, everyone. Sue.oneschuk here, continuing the lessons in the workbook of A Course in Miracles. And today we are on lesson 66. So here is the lesson for today. My happiness and my function are one. It says, you have surely noticed an emphasis throughout our recent lessons on the connection between fulfilling your function and achieving happiness. And it said, this is because you do not really see the connection. Yet there is more than just a connection between them. They are the same. It says their forms are different, but their content is completely one. So it says the ego does not, or the ego does constant battle with the Holy Spirit on the fundamental question of what your function is. So does it do constant battle with the Holy Spirit about what your happiness is. It is not a two-way battle. The ego attacks and the Holy Spirit does not respond. The Holy Spirit knows what your function is. The Holy Spirit knows that it is your happiness. And the ego feeds on conflict and confusion, trying to attack the truth. Just be aware of that as you're doing this lesson and as you continue on. When you find yourself in a place of attacking, it's all from ego. It's all based in fear. So it says today we will try to go past this wholly meaningless battle and arrive at the truth about your function. It said we will not engage in senseless arguments about what it is. See, what the Course says is the ego analyzes and spirit extends love. The spirit, as it said in the paragraph above, it doesn't respond to the ego. So it said we will not become hopelessly involved in defining happiness and determining the means for achieving it. We will not indulge the ego by listening to its attacks on truth. We will merely be glad that we can find out what truth is. It said here again, we will not indulge the ego by listening to its attacks on truth. And just take a look at, where you justify your ego attacks and, on others and on the world versus being love. So our longer practice period today has as its purpose your acceptance of the fact that not only is there a real connection between the function God gave you and your happiness, but that they are actually identical. So God gives only happiness. You say love gives only happiness. Therefore, the function he gave you must be happiness, even if it appears to be different. Today's exercises are an attempt to go beyond these differences in appearance and recognize a common content where it exists in truth. The ego is going to, as it says, it's going to get into senseless arguments and into conflict about what is true. So between the 10 to 15 minute practice period, or it says the 10 to 15 practice period by reviewing these thoughts. God gives me only happiness. He has given my function to me. Therefore, my function must be happiness. And it says, try to see the logic in this sequence, even if you do not yet accept the conclusion. You're not there yet, because you really do not see the connection. Doing the practices and doing the of the lessons will bring you to that, but you're not there at this point. It is only in the first two thoughts, which are, God gives me only happiness. He has given my function to me. So it is only in these first two thoughts, only if the first two thoughts are wrong, that the conclusion will be false. So if it's wrong that God gives me only happiness and he has given me my function, then, if that's wrong, then again, it says it could be false. Let us, though, then think about the premises for a while as we are practicing. Now here, they give you two premises. And the first premise is that God gives you only happiness. So this could be false, of course, but in order to be false, it is necessary to define God as something that he is not. Love cannot give evil, and what is not happiness is evil. I'm going to say that again. Love cannot give evil, and what is not happiness is evil. God cannot give what he does not have, and he cannot have what is not what he is not. I'm going to read that again. God cannot give what he does not have, and he cannot have what he is not. God is only love. So unless God gives you only happiness, he must be evil. And it is this definition of him that you are believing if you do not accept the first premise, which is that God gives you only happiness. We keep searching for happiness. We look for happiness in personal gains, in personal recognition, and we look for happiness in our interpersonal relationships, in education, in skills, abilities. We look for happiness in jobs, in cars, and the list goes on. We look for happiness in accumulating money. Those are all the idols of the world. So again, it said the second premise is that God has given you your function. And we have seen that there are only two parts of your mind. One is ruled by the ego, which is the wrong-mindedness, and it's made up of the illusions. It's made up of the dream. It's made of what is not real. And the other is the home of the Holy Spirit. That is our right-mindedness. And that's where the truth abides. The right-mindedness is love. So there's no other guides but these to choose between. Either we're choosing the right-mindedness or we're choosing the wrong-mindedness. Okay, let me just find my place here. I'll read this again. There are no other guides but these to choose between, and no other outcomes possible as a result of your choice but fear that the ego always engenders. And the other choice is the love that the Holy Spirit always offers to replace it. Remember, we can't be in both places at the same time. We're either in fear or we're in love. That's it. So says, thus it must be that your function is established by God through his voice. His voice is the Holy Spirit. His voice is your higher self. His voice is love. Or it's made by the ego, which you have made to replace God. From the ego perspective, we are, believing that we are separate from God. So which is true? Unless God gave your function to you, it must be the gift of the ego. And it says, does the ego really have gifts to give? Being itself an illusion and offering only the illusion of gifts? So, again, you believe that, and we believe that the world gives us happiness. And the actuality is that happiness is a gift from God, and it's already in us. It's just hidden. It's hidden by our being asleep and our choosing the illusions, choosing the dream. So it says, think about this during the longer practice period today. Think also about the many forms of illusions of your function. Okay, I'm going to read that again. Think also about the many forms the illusion of your function has taken in your mind, and the many ways in which you try to find salvation under the ego's guidance. As I mentioned, we try to find the happiness in accumulating money, in personal relationships, in personal recognition, personal gain, even happiness with the pets, all kinds of status in education and degrees and skills. And it says here, the many ways, as I just mentioned, in which you tried to find salvation under the ego's guidance. And did you find it? Were you happy? Did they bring you peace? And it says here that, we need great honesty today. Remember the outcomes fairly and consider also whether it was ever reasonable to expect happiness from anything the ego ever proposed. Yet the ego is the only alternative to the Holy Spirit's voice. This course is all about undoing the ego. And we do that through forgiveness, when we recognize that we are caught up in the ego. And forgiveness is the key to happiness, as was spoken of previously, and is spoken of in this course. You will listen to madness, or you're going to hear the truth. It's really insane to think that God is evil. So, just take a look at that. So again, you'll listen to madness, or you'll hear the truth. Try to make this choice as you think about the premises on which our conclusion rests. We can share in this conclusion, but in no other. For God himself shares it with us. Today's idea is another giant stride in the perception of the same as the same and the different as different. On one side stands all the illusions, and all truth stands on the other. It's either or. It's illusions or truth. It is the ego edging God out, or it is the Holy Spirit. It is the truth. It is love. And the ego is all based in fear and in madness and illusions. So it said, let us try today to realize that the only truth is true. So in the shorter practice periods, which would be most helpful today, if undertaken, they're asking here to do it twice an hour. This, to apply this form of application as suggested here, which says, my happiness and function are one because God has given me both. Said it will not take more than a minute and probably less to repeat these words slowly and think about them a little while as you say them. So just to sum up, our happiness is found in being as God created us. And happiness has not been found, as it said, in these passing forms, that come and go, that have led us nowhere. All those forms I mentioned earlier. So, some of these forms, okay, let's look at relationships. They end. Either, they end at a certain time. Someone may die, or you may end a relationship. So, today, seek for happiness where it can be found in forgiveness. Again, as it says here in this lesson, to realize your happiness and function are one. So, do not look for happiness. Do not look for happiness in the future. We say, I'll be happy when I can go on that trip next week. I'll be happy when I can leave this job. I'll be happy when ... You can put the words in there. So, what it's saying here is present happiness is our function. So the lesson again for today is my happiness and my function are one. Remember, you have choice, ego or God. Have a wonderful day. I look forward to seeing you, being with you in the next video, and we will be reviewing lesson 67. So have a wonderful day. Again, please like, share, comment. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to this channel. I would really appreciate it. Alrighty, have a love-filled day.